Right on time. Yeah. All right, good morning. How's everybody this morning? Good? Energetic? So the code item this week is to don't overpromise and underdeliver. Definitely a good one. It's all about that communication, something that we're going to talk further in discussion today is really trying to communicate. So excellent job this week. Another 7 days without recordable. We had a lot of uptick on accidents, vehicles, utilities, things like that. One close encounter with an on-site first aid. So this week we had, about 5 things that happened, and it kind of got me thinking. And I looked back and I looked at our frequency. The month of October historically is one of our highest injuries, accident types of months. And why that is, I think a little bit it's changing of the climate. It's dark until about 7. It gets dark a lot earlier. The weather's getting colder. We're getting a little bit more fatigued because we've been working so hard for so many months. We got deadlines. We got kind of vacations that, everybody likes to hunt a little bit. They're kind of focusing on that, so some distractions. So I thought it would be good to kind of hone in and really talk about really our biggest tool to how to work safe out there is our job site hazard assessments. We can't really let these go by the wayside. We really need to focus now with our exposures at the highest. We're fatigued, we're tired. We really need to make sure we hone in on these morning safety meetings that everybody is aware of our surroundings, what our hazards are, and what are we trying to accomplish for the day. So we're going to kind of go over some of the quick strategies and trying to make good decisions. When we make good decisions, nothing bad really could happen to us. When we start having lack of judgment, overconfidence, fatigue, that's when we start making some not great decisions, and that's when we have accidents. So some of the steps for our risk assessment that we want to do, we want to make sure we're identifying the work to be done, the steps involved, and necessary resources needed. We want to make sure we're planning ahead what we're going to do today. We're going to examine what hazards may affect you or your coworkers in the environment. So we want to know, are we working underneath power lines? Are we excavating today? Are we going to put a trench box in? Or do we have fall hazards today? Is there a lot of potential for pinch points, a lot of handwork, a lot of heavy lifting type of work? That's the type of things we want to kind of think about before we just jump into a task. Decide what you're going to do to prevent or minimize potential harm. So is there a more efficient or safer way to do the job? Do we have the right tools and equipment for the job? So what are the things we can do to try to eliminate? And then write down our plan and communicate to your coworkers. That's the biggest thing, is that communication part. And then follow up with your plans. Follow through with your plans. Really try to execute. And then if you do alter the plan, make sure you kind of communicate that throughout everybody that's working on the crew. So biggest thing is always ask questions, always challenge something if you're uncertain. When you have uncertainty, there's a big gray area there for something bad to happen. So trust your gut. If you don't feel like something's not quite right, say something so we can get it addressed. Health and safety is available 24/7, so please give us a call if you need us. So the types of hazards that we want to really be focusing for is, of course, the safety ones. What are the potential for injury risks? Those are the falls, the excavation, the caught in between, the struck by, the electrical. Those are the ones we want to make sure that we are addressing. We got that potential. What are we going to do? How are we going to work safe around that hazard? Then we have the health hazards, which is kind of the silica, the noise, things like that don't really harm us too much, but it's available, it's around. So what kind of controls we're going to put in place with that? And then we have the environmental ones. What could harm if something happens, such as spill kits, wetland disturbance, erosion, stuff like that. So those are kind of the main 3 categories that we need to kind of focus with each and every day on our job sites. We can't get complacent. This is the time of year when we can really get complacent with these things. We really need to really raise our awareness and really keep our tolerance where it needs to be, so we don't say, it's not that big of a deal. We want to make sure that we really address every little situation that we're encountering out there so we don't have a really bad accident. And again, through our hierarchy of controls, this is kind of how we want to make sure we're working from the chart down. We want to try to isolate the people from the hazard as much as we can on our job sites. We want to change the way we work. We just can't rely on PPE. If we just rely on PPE, then we're going to have accidents, because you really need to focus more about how are we going to safely work around the hazards, with distances, with guardrails, with personal fall arrest systems, with trench boxes, with shoring. Those are the best means and methods to work safely around the type of work that we do. We're doing there's a lot of exposure out there, and we kind of saw it this week with how many accidents we had. We really need to focus on this tool, making sure we're doing these types of thought process before we just jump in for the day. And I know it changes, it's construction, it's constantly changing. So we really need to make sure that we're communicating that throughout the whole entire crew, and just kind of weigh your options. Always try to think, and I feel like our tolerance for safety hazards is not where we need to be, because we need to be focusing more on saying, we need to just stop for a second, or we need to be like, it's time to alter our plan a little bit to make it a little bit safer, because we're taking on unnecessary risks right now. And it's a little bit as we're just not quite communicating the way we need to communicate, and try to have the support. We have a lot of support here, so utilize it. Ask questions, ask for help, and we'll do anything we can to make sure that you guys work safe each and every day out here, so nothing bad happens. Is there any questions regarding to our JHA? Let's make sure we're doing it. Let's go through it. Let's make sure we have a nice little 15-minute powwow together before we get out and start the day, because we want to make sure that we're communicating our hazards, what our controls are, so everybody can go home safe and sound. We don't want to see anybody go home or get sent in an ambulance ride, anything like that. So we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence when it comes to site safety out there on our projects. So it's important. No other questions? I'll pass over to Ken for the corporate announcements.
Okay. I don't know if there's any PT 360 appointments available. They're out. We're out.
We completed it on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. It was last week.
This
It was
Tuesday.
this week.
This Tuesday we decided.
The 8th. I didn't read it very carefully, did I? There'll be another one coming up in a few more weeks, right?
November.
Okay. Whoops. Which one? Okay. And then, of course, fuel cards. Left that on there. And for the project, we're profiling the East Road Bridge 5 and 6 replacements in Milton, and we're contracted with the town of Milton to replace these existing bridges with new precast box culverts. Installation of the new structure had started at bridge number 6, and it consists of a 32-foot long two-piece box with short perpendicular walls. Short but tall. Short meaning short in length. They're certainly tall. The inside dimensions are 20 feet wide by 10 feet tall. The culvert again is two-piece to accommodate the height, because it can't transport that over the road. And they're using 3 feet of type 1 E-stone or erosion stone inside the culvert bottom. So we subcontracted to CCS with a 275-ton Grove to set the structure, and we used our crane at the staging area to handle the pieces to send them off to the area. A couple images from the drawings, and you see what I meant by short is the wing walls are, and the structure is quite high. It's odd to see the structure high and the wing wall is short. And it is kind of a short box too, just being 32 foot and just barely from guardrail to guardrail. You see there's the joint is right here, so there's a bottom and a top piece, and we'll see in the pictures here, and the E-stone inside. This is actually a few days ago, not very many days ago, really. Just totally saturated and waterlogged and filled right up to the brim. Pretty much, there's a grade stake right there, and the grade stake is still there. And we used an 8-inch pump, rental pump, to get it dry, get the bottom dry. You can't really see it, but the grade stake's right here, right near the top tip. So quite a difference in a day. A day makes a big difference with an 8-inch pump, I guess. And you see the bottom pieces going on and coming together. There's only 5 pieces in length. And the top is going on the end
They're
section.
doing it top and bottom.
What's that?
It's odd that they're doing top and bottom, usually just come to once.
Well, the height.
What's the height? It's
The
a
height,
10
yeah.
10-foot height plus the thickness. You don't have the room to get it over the road. Yeah, the height is kind of odd. I don't know why they really needed that height. And you see they're starting to set the one of the pieces of the wing walls.
You said there's 4 feet of stone going in.
It's 3 feet they're calling for. I think that was what it was. But yeah, it's going to be a muddy bottom. Everything there is muddy. So as soon as you put the E-stone in, the first storm's just going to fill it all up anyway. So whatever. And then from the photo archives, this is also East Road in Milton back in 2001. This is further north, almost the intersection of Cambridge Road or whatever it is. So, and it was October too. See, it was the same time of year. Kind of neat. Back there again. Okay. Have a safe day out there. Make sure you do a good job hazard analysis. Sure in the front of here. Ivan Lanu. Sean Lamphere.